Remember back in 2008 when Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson told the Senate Banking Committee that Congress has to quickly pass the administration's $700 billion bailout? They called it TARP, or Troubled Asset Relief Program, of the financial industry, or else taxpayers will suffer the consequences.
I am convinced that this bold approach will cost American families far less than the alternative, a continuing series of financial institution failures and frozen credit markets unable to fund everyday needs and economic expansion. Again, I'm frustrated. The taxpayer is on the hook. The taxpayer is already on the hook.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
The taxpayer already is going to suffer the consequences if things don't work the way they should work. And so the best protection for the taxpayer, and the first protection for the taxpayer, is to have this work. Over these past days, it has become clear that there is a bipartisan consensus for an urgent legislative solution. We need to build upon this spirit and enact this bill quickly and cleanly.
What the hell did you just say?
And avoid slowing it down with provisions that are unrelated or don't have broad support. This troubled asset purchase program on its own is the single most effective thing we can do to help homeowners, the American people, and to stimulate our economy.
Please disperse. Nothing to see here, please.
And remember at the beginning of 2018 when political parasites were moaning about a government shutdown and how it would negatively impact the American people?
Are there any senators in the chamber wishing to vote or wishing to change their vote? If not, on this vote, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 49. And the motion is not agreed. And 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative, the motion is not agreed to. Majority Leader?
I enter a motion to reconsider the vote.
Motion is entered.
Yeah, I just want to call to the attention of my colleagues statement of a part of the statement of the White House press secretary tonight, presumably on behalf of the administration, simply says, "We will not negotiate the status of unlawful immigrants while Democrats hold our lawful citizens hostage over their reckless demands."
Democratic Leader?
Mr. President, President Trump, if you are listening, I am urging you, please take yes for an answer. The way things went today, the way you turned from a bipartisan deal, it's almost as if you were rooting for a shutdown. And now we'll have one. And the blame should crash entirely on President Trump's shoulders. This will be called the Trump shutdown.
How about when Newsweek and other publications and media outlets tried to convince you that government shutdowns could cost the economy billions? Listen to how they painted this from Newsweek. Democrats and Republicans in the U.S. Senate failed to reach an agreement on a budget bill Friday, and it could cost the economy billions. The last time the government shut down in 2013 for 16 days, the U.S. economy took a $24 billion hit, according to Standard & Poor's analysis. This year's government shutdown could cost the U.S. about $6 billion a week, according to Al Jazeera. The 2013 shutdown led the GDP to dip by 0.25%. Goldman Sachs analyst Alec Phillips told Fortune that each week the government is shut down, it will decrease the real GDP and have a modest effect on the financial markets. The last shutdown caused 800,000 federal employees to be placed on furlough, and many more employees were late on receiving their paychecks. Those furloughed federal employees then spent less and their shopping dropped by 7%. During that time, the Office of Management and Budget estimated that the shutdown cost Americans $2 billion in lost productivity. The shutdown also impacted tourism by forcing national parks to close, costing $500 million in lost revenue. The government shutdown this year could impede Defense Department contracts, leading to an increase in weapons costs. Guys, let's boil this down. Here's what mainstream media is really trying to tell us. If you cause the U.S. government to shut down, If you interfere with their ability to rob you, harass you, detain, arrest, and imprison you, if you hamstring their ability to create weapons of war and the myriad of other evil things government does, it's gonna cost you, buddy. This is systematic blackmail. Basically, give us your wallet and nobody gets hurt. So let's take a quick look at some of the departments that would cease operations if the government actually did shut down. Here's a quick rundown. The government employs approximately 2.6 million people who don't produce a dang thing. They don't contribute in any real way by adding value to society. The proposed fiscal budget for 2017 was $4.2 trillion. Now let's put that number in context. There are 365 days in a year, 24 hours in a day, and 60 minutes in an hour. That adds up to a grand total of 525,600 minutes every year. Divide that figure into $4.2 trillion for fiscal year 2017 spending, and you find that the federal government spends about $7.9 million every single minute. Raise your right hand if you're not only for a government shutdown, but an abolition of government altogether. This is a partial list of the agencies that would be affected by a government shutdown. American Battle Monuments Commission, Congress, which by the way is the opposite of progress, Consumer Product Safety Commission, Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Department of Defense, think military industrial complex, Department of Education. I like to call this the Department of Indoctrination, because we know how effective they are at what they do. Department of Energy, Department of Health and Human Services, that's the Centers for Disease Control, the Food and Drug Administration, and the National Institutes of Health. Department of Homeland Security. What? You mean no more radiation and molestation practices before I board that departing flight? Department of Housing and Urban Development, Department of the Interior, Department of Justice, or rather, Injustice, Department of Labor, Department of State, Department of Transportation, Department of the Treasury, which includes the Internal Revenue Service. What do you mean they're not going to steal our hard-earned income anymore? Why would we want that? Department of Veterans Affairs, Environmental Protection Agency, Federal Communications Commission, federally funded research and development centers, General Services Administration, intelligence agencies. You mean no more CIA and NSA spying on us or the DEA throwing us into prison for nonviolent so-called crimes? Library of Congress, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. No more lies from NASA while they steal over $50 million a day from us? National Archives, National Labor Relations Board, National Science Foundation, National Transportation Safety Board, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Office of Special Counsel, Small Business Administration. No more regulations on small business? No, don't shut that down. My life's not difficult enough without you around trying to drive my business into the ground. Smithsonian Institution, Social Security Administration, and the White House. How in the world can people possibly be freaked out about the threat of a domestic crime ring shutting down? Sure, I'd feel bad for the 2.7 million people who lost their jobs, but that just means that in a couple of years, many of those 2.7 million people would begin making positive, profitable contributions to society, and we would have the strongest, freest economy in the world without a band of psychopathic, power-hungry criminals harming us and taking our stuff. What do you guys think? Government shutdown or no government shutdown? How could we ever survive without rulers telling us what to do, punishing us if we don't obey, and coming up with creative ways to rob us of our laboring energy? Leave your thoughts about this for the world, the Google Thought Police, and corrupt government officials who want to rule over you and steal your stuff in the comments section below. And I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow banned video. Guys, thanks for watching. I create at least one new video every day. If you get something out of this content and you want to be alerted when I upload new material, subscribe to High Impact Vlogs, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, and share it with everybody you know. Because the specter of censorship and termination looms over channels like mine, be sure to subscribe to my free private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. And if you think it's worth helping the cause of truth here on this channel, you can support my work on Patreon or PayPal, or you can grab a hard-hitting shirt from the most politically incorrect shirt store on the planet. There are over 100 kick-ass designs, and I'm adding new ones every week. All these links are in the description and in the pinned comment. Remember, don't just believe anything and keep questioning everything. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored video.